To get started, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight in the live audience. I'd like to welcome everyone in the live broadcast audience. I'd like to welcome those who are watching the video archives for tonight. My name, of course, is Dr. Doug Kelley, and tonight we're going to have a number of different topics we're going to discuss. I'm going to cover sacred obligations here in the next few minutes. That's actually an interesting discussion on obligations that we have in life, and to kind of set some priorities. And then Dr. Vicki Hunter will be Skyping in from British Columbia. She'll be talking about random psychic premonitions and how to deal with those. And then my good friend, Reverend Gregory Kent, will be Skyping in from Central Florida, and he will be discussing spirit communication. So that's kind of a quick lineup for tonight. As always, we'll start by reading our 9 principles of belief. The spiritual philosophy of metaphysical humanism is based on 9 metaphysical principles that empower and enhance the human condition. These solid principles are excellent as the foundation of an individual's core values, but sufficiently broad enough to complement most spiritual beliefs. All the Church's articles, classes, courses, and writings have some basis in these principles. So therefore, our 9 principles are, number 1, as sentient and evolving human beings, we not only believe in practicing and living by the principle of do no harm, but also in the principle of do right, thus enhancing the vibrational level of humanity. Number 2, we believe in the indomitable power of the human spirit to ultimately triumph in the face of any dilemma. The answers we seek already exist within us. We invoke and exert the counselor and guru within. Number 3, we believe that we alone are responsible for and capable of solving human social problems, and believe the roots of those solutions lie in exploring, understanding, and empowering the human condition. Number 4, we embrace the differences that make all human beings unique, recognizing that we all come from star material and are therefore equal, irrespective of heritage, beliefs, gender, or gender preference. One planet, one race, one ancestry, one destiny. Number 5, rather than a supreme being, we recognize and honor the divine energy that exists in all living things. Number 6, we believe the nature of a human being encompasses both a physical and spiritual aspect, and that human consciousness survives the death of the physical body in a coherent fashion. Thus, death opens a new chapter of life and conducts the individual into a higher state of existence. Number 7, we believe in self-acceptance, self-responsibility, and respect for free will, and that these 3 synergistically create the goal of self-completeness. Number 8, we believe in the value of practical education in metaphysics, metapsychology, and life skills as a means of empowering the human spirit and enhancing the human condition. We maintain an open but grounded mind to potential realities as yet undescribed by science. And number 9, we believe that discovering the true nature of consciousness and human existentialism will ultimately have a positive impact on human evolution and peaceful coexistence. And for more information on these 9 principles of belief, you can visit our website at metaphysicalhumanism.org, and there's a little bit of a further discussion on them. All right, so as I mentioned, we're going to get into the first topic, which is sacred obligations. And this is an interesting term. And if you stop and think about what's an obligation, well, we all know what an obligation is, right? And there's actually about 4 different types of obligations when you start to think about it. The first type of obligation is universal, generally self-evident obligations. Examples are trustworthiness, integrity, honesty. There's a bunch of them. I mean, these are things that we do, right? We feel an obligation to be honest, to do the right thing, to be good people. Most of us, right? Can't speak for the whole world, but you get the idea. But this is an obligation that we adhere to. It's just one that we do. So that's kind of a universal, generally self-evident obligation. That's one kind of obligation. A second type of obligation is a personally chosen obligation. That's something that we impose on ourselves. Think about that for a minute. We do things maybe every day. Have you ever had that happen where we get in the habit of doing this thing and we feel obligated to do it? And then one day we kind of see the light, wake up and say, what am I doing this for? I mean, I don't have to do this. That's the second type of obligation. Just one that we've imposed on ourselves. And sometimes it's for good reasons and sometimes it's not for good reasons. A third type of obligation is a perceived obligation. This is often an obligation imposed on us by others with our permission, and this can include religious obligations, family obligations. They can be healthy or unhealthy. Now this will probably ring a bell with a lot of our viewers and audience. Have you ever been in that situation where you feel a family type obligation? You've been doing it, maybe it's not the healthiest thing, it really puts you out, and you're not happy about it, but you feel obligated to do it out of some sense of family obligation. But that's not always a healthy thing. I'm not saying that they're all unhealthy, I'm just saying it can be unhealthy, and a lot of times they are. We will end up doing what our family wants because, well, they're our family. And we have this unhealthy sense of loyalty in areas where our boundaries are violated a lot. Maybe we're an adult and we have parents who are trying to control our lives still. That happens a lot. Or maybe it's on the part of a close friend, a spouse, a partner, or somebody like that. So that's the third type. It's a perceived obligation. We perceive that we are obligated to do this. When we raise our awareness, we might realize that we're not really obligated here. We don't have to do that. And this is an area that them-esteem comes in a lot. Now, we've talked about self-esteem versus them-esteem in previous meetings, in previous broadcasts. Self-esteem is internal expectations and validation. If I have self-esteem, I validate myself. I live up to my own expectations. I set those expectations, and I live up to those. Them-esteem is our term for low self-esteem. When I have self-esteem, I esteem myself. And it's not narcissism, by the way. It's just a good, healthy self-concept. Them-esteem is kind of like low self-esteem. I esteem them more than I do me. So I'm only happy when I'm doing things that other people think I should be doing, whether that's my family, my religious leaders, my boss, whoever it is. Them-esteem is external expectations and validation. And this is where this third area of obligations comes into play. These perceived obligations could be based on them-esteem. We don't feel good unless we're doing what our family thinks we should be doing, our religious leaders think we should be doing, whoever it happens to be. The fourth type of obligation is what I call sacred obligations. These are spiritual in nature. They're higher in order, or higher order obligations, I guess I should say. And these are really for successful living. These sacred obligations are self-evident for some people. They may not be self-evident for everyone, but they can be self-evident. And if you look at our poster here, we've got our sacred obligations, and here are 5 sacred obligations. Number 1, do no harm, do right. It's that poster right here. And I don't have a image for the broadcast audience, so just listen carefully. Number 1 is do no harm, do right. Number 2 is reclaim your power. Number 3 is attune your life leadership paragon. Number 4 is pay it forward. Number 5 is deliver your greatness. Now these, I'm going to talk about each one and why they're a sacred obligation. It doesn't take a whole lot to understand why number 1 is do no harm, do right. That's a sacred obligation. Now a lot of people fancy themselves as doing no harm. And they do. I mean, they live that way. And it depends on the individual as to where that level is. What I want to encourage everyone to do is try stepping it up a notch. Do no harm. And there is a difference between doing no harm and doing right. Doing no harm, I suppose, could be a little more of a passive thing. We just don't go and harm anyone. But it's not so much an active thing, whereas do right is an active sense of that concept. So we see somebody who needs some help, we help. We do the right thing. Obviously, everything should be held in a good, healthy way. We don't want to enable someone in an unhealthy pattern by doing the right thing, quote unquote. We also want to be careful of the dark side of doing right, which is what I call it. Do you really think you should eat that piece of cake? Do you really think you should drink that drink? Whatever it is, do you really think you should do this or that or the other thing? We might have their best interests at heart, but now when we start trying to tell them what to do or not to do, now we're imposing on their free will. We are now assuming responsibility for another adult, which we don't have a right to do. It's their life, their path, just like our life is our path. So do no harm, do right is a sacred obligation. If we want a better world, then we need to buy into that one. It's a sacred obligation. It's a very noble thing to do. Number 2, reclaim your power. I've mentioned this a lot too. A lot of folks have a lot of problems in life. They have had their fair share or more than their fair share of adversity. They've gone through some issues. They might be in a toxic relationship, of whether it's at personal or at work or wherever. The panacea, the cure-all to about anything that ails us in these areas is to reclaim your power. That means take your power back. That means stand up on your own 2 feet. It means to understand that you are entitled to all the good things in life the same as anyone else, no more, no less. It means that you protect your boundaries. Probably the best way I can illustrate this is the schoolyard where you got the bully and the victim. And the bully's picking on the poor little kid, and the little kid says, no, don't hurt me, don't do that, I don't, and the bully, what's he going to do? He's going to keep picking on him, right? Even though the boy is protesting, is there any oomph behind it? Say no. Good answer, huh? Don't you love it when I tell you what to say? Wait, doesn't that conflict with what you're teaching here? Yeah, darn it. So, if the little boy says, no more, I'm not taking it anymore, don't even cross that line right there, and he's looking him straight in the eye. You might punch me, but you'll go down too. I might get hurt, but I'll emerge with my dignity and my respect, self-respect intact. So if you want to go there, feel free, but you're not going to win this one. And he shuts up. Now, tell me, is there something different about this little boy, about his energy? There is, isn't there? He's taken his power back. Now he's somebody to be dealt with. I mean, he's not going to let them walk all over him. Remember, everything in life is win-win. It has to be win-win. Not I lose, you win, or I win, you lose. It has to be win-win. So when you take your power back, you protect your boundaries and you change your energy signature. All that means is your vibe. It just changes you. You can look at somebody and tell right away. You can pick up on their vibe, can't you? We might meet somebody initially and we get a real funky vibe or a strange vibe. We might meet somebody and say, wow, they're kind of creepy. Or we might meet somebody and say, they're really a nice person. Because we're picking up on this vibe. It's just a part of the human condition. It's not anything strange or mystical. It's just part of the human condition. That's the energy signature. And when we take our power back, we change. Because we've had an epiphany. We've had an aha moment. We have learned the lesson. We can know a lesson but not learn the lesson, right? When we learn a lesson, we change. And it's reflected in our attitude, in our energy signature, in our vibe. Something changes within us. And it affects our beliefs, specifically our self-belief. Number 3 is attune your life leadership paragon. Now, I kind of talked about life leadership paragon. It's mentioned in our 9 principles of belief. It's on that center poster. I think we have one we could throw up on the screen, I'm sure. The life leadership paragon simply means a model of excellence. And over many years, I have developed this thing and boiled it all down to these areas that we need. These are absolutely critical skills that we must bring into balance to be successful in anything in life. They are self-acceptance, self-responsibility, respect for free will. And these 3 synergistically create self-completeness, which means to stand on your own 2 feet. And as I've said before too, this is such an elegant model for personal growth. because in many cases, one or all of these areas are not in their proper order. What's the definition of adversity? Something is out of its proper order. You ever had adversity in life? Say yes. Of course you have. Everybody has. And when you think about it, when we're going through that adversity, something is not in its proper order. When we get past that adversity, can we not look back and say, yeah, we worked it out. We put things back in order. And that's all adversity is, a state of disorder. So if you're in a position right now, in a place where there's adversity in your life, look for the spiritual lesson. What's out of whack? What's out of place? What's out of balance? And so that's why the Life Leadership Paragon is so cool, because when you look at those areas, starting with self-acceptance, you accept yourself just as you are, right here, right now, warts and all. You understand that you're entitled to all the same good things in life, the same as anyone else, no more, no less. You understand that you are perfect, perfectly you. Nobody can be more perfect at being you than you are. You're a perfect work in progress. As long as you strive to be better tomorrow than you were yesterday, you're perfect. And the only way a human being can be perfect. So you stop kicking yourself for making mistakes. You understand that's just part of the human condition. You embrace those. You learn the lesson. You move forward guilt-free. That's all part of self-acceptance. When we understand that, when we really buy into that, we bring self-acceptance into balance. Our self-acceptance, we bring it into balance. We don't get involved in them-esteem anymore. We understand we have self-esteem, good, healthy self-concept. You know, somebody asks you, you're perfect. What's the perfect response to that?
Yes.
I was thinking more hell yes, but I'll take yes too. But they get it. We're not talking about narcissism. We're talking simply about a healthy self-concept. I am no better nor any worse than anyone else. That's the idea. We're all entitled to the same good things. Self-responsibility, I'm going to come back to that one. So here's the cool thing. You take self-acceptance. You bring it into balance. That's the most common one of the three that's usually out of balance for people. The second most common one is respect for free will. That manifests in giving unsolicited advice, trying to change or control somebody else. We don't have the right to do that. We don't want people changing or controlling us. We don't want to do it to them either. And so we have to respect other people's right. As long as they're doing no harm, and again, don't want to do the dark side of doing right. They might be doing something that's harmful to themselves, but that's their choice. And obviously, I can't cover every scenario that might be out there, but generally speaking, we respect other people's right to walk their path. We don't give unsolicited advice. If we have adult children, we don't give them unsolicited advice. We let them do their thing. So, we bring self-acceptance into its proper balance in our case. We bring respect for free will into proper balance. We don't try to change or control other people. The cool thing about it is that self-responsibility kind of falls into place, doesn't it? Because if I have a healthy self-concept regarding me, I am assuming a proper and healthy responsibility for myself, correct? Yes. Yeah. If I stop trying to change or control other people, then I stop trying to assume responsibility for them. Now I'm showing a healthy responsibility for other people, correct? So self-responsibility kind of falls into place. So when these three become healthy, they synergistically create self-completeness, meaning I don't need anyone outside of myself to be complete within myself. I'm standing on my own 2 feet. I know who I am and why I am who I am. I don't need anyone else in my life. Doesn't mean we don't have relationships and interdependent relationships. Of course we do. But it means that if all I have is me, that's enough. That's self-completeness. And so that's the third aspect of sacred obligations. We have a sacred obligation to ourselves and to others in this area. We have a sacred obligation to have a healthy self-concept, because when we do that, we are in a much better position to have a positive impact on other people. You can't change people, you can't control people, but can you have a positive impact on others? Sure, you can. The fourth part of the fourth sacred obligation for metaphysical humanism is pay it forward. We've all heard the term. Movie came out years ago, excellent. Of course, before that, the book. But this is not a new concept. This concept of paying it forward has been around for thousands of years. And it simply means you do the right thing for somebody. They may not have done a thing for you. You go do a nice. You might pay it forward in some way. Somebody needs a helping hand, you pay it forward. And they say, well, I'll pay you back. You say, no, you pay it forward. Help somebody else who needs it in some way. That's simply paying it forward. If everybody was doing that, do you think it would improve the world? Sure it would. And that's why it's a sacred obligation. It's a simple concept if we just do it. Number 5 is the 5th sacred obligation. And remember that there are plenty of sacred obligations. These are just 5 of them, very important ones that we've identified and put out there. Deliver your greatness. How many here have greatness to deliver? Can I see your hands? Please. Really? Come on. Now, if you did not raise your hand, and not everybody does that should tell you something about you. There is no shame here, right? There is no judgment. It's the same question when I ask, who here is perfect, right? Remember when I asked that a few weeks back? And like nobody raised their hand, and then I explained what perfection is, and I said, who's perfect? And you all raised your hand, right? Because now you understand. Everybody has greatness to deliver. Everybody does. Treating people decently is a side or an indication of greatness, isn't it? We live in a world where a lot of the world does not do that. They kill each other. We live on a planet that's tribal warfare. We live on a planet where everything eats everything else. What's up with that? Whose idea was that? I don't know. I'll get back to you someday on that one if I ever figure it out. But the point is that we can deliver greatness even in small ways. By being kind to others, by paying it forward. If we have some work that is important to us, like this is my work, this is what I do, this is who I am, this is what I want to leave as a legacy, this is my work, and I am delivering greatness. Well, you may have a work too. Are you delivering greatness with that? If you're sincere and passionate and you're doing no harm and you're helping people, of course you're delivering greatness. It's a good thing. But we can deliver greatness in little ways too. Another big way to deliver greatness is to be encouraging to others. You know something, folks? One of the biggest voids, the biggest needs there are among people in general is just an encouraging word. Living in this world can sometimes be so discouraging. We have to face the obstacles in life, the adversities in life, and we can get discouraged. Sometimes people just need an encouraging word. How you doing? Good to see you. Are those not signs of greatness to deliver? Yes. So look for the areas in your life that you have greatness to deliver and insist on it. It is a sacred obligation because it not only helps you, it helps those around you. Those are the sacred obligations. And there are, of course, others, but those are some of the primary ones. If you observe those, your life will greatly increase or improve. Maybe your life is great. It will still get better because that's part of enlightenment. It's part of our journey. All right. So we have talked about these types of obligations. There's some categories of obligations: social, self, family, business, career, financial obligations. They're all just there. We kind of know that. Just a couple of quick wrap-up notes. We don't want to try to obligate other people to us because that's a form of manipulation, right? That's trying to control somebody. Don't want to do that. The more obligations in life that we have, the less control over our life that we have. So the point of this discussion is to reassess your obligations. You know, what category do they fall in? Are they universally, the first one, universally self-evident obligations to be kind, be honest, have integrity? Great, keep them. Personally chosen obligations. Review your obligations. Are they one you personally chose? Does it still make sense? The third area was perceived obligations, maybe from family, obligated to family, friends, whoever. Review those. Are they still necessary? And the fourth one is the sacred obligations, which we just went over. All right, so hopefully this discussion has been of value and it will get you thinking, because that's my big objective here, right? Provoke you to thought, disturb you to action. Think about you and how you can improve your life. Okay, next up on the program is Dr. Vicki Hunter. She's going to be talking about random psychic premonitions. I had it. All right, let me get set up for Dr. Vicki. Okay, I need to ramble on for a moment. I'll tell you about Dr. Vicki Hunter. You always wanted to know that, right? Of course you did. She has worked this is for the benefit of our new listeners and attendees. Dr. Vicki Hunter has worked as a clairvoyant for 40 years and is an accomplished spiritual counselor and educator, one of the best spiritual counselors I've ever met. She's a former TV host and the author of several books and programs, including her flagship work, Principles for Natural Laws and Learning. She serves on the church here, the board of directors, and she's vice president of operations. And of course, she does all this stuff with me here and as part of this weekly service, and she hails from British Columbia. So let me turn off my mic and turn hers on.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. And I'm in. Hey, we have audio. That's awesome. Thank you very much. We had a letter the other day that prompted a discussion with me and Dr. Kelley, and worthy of bringing up tonight, because I think it's a really interesting and valid discussion. And the letter was simply somebody saying they'd had these dreams, they felt like something really bad was going to happen in their area. In fact, they had seen in their visions 3 murders, 1 location, what do they do, could they help, and so on. And of course, this is what TV shows are made of, right? And this is glamorizing in movies about people who have these really impressive kinds of visions, and they're going to go on a quest to help somebody and rescue, and figuring that they had it for a reason. Well, this is a really tough thing to deal with very often, because number one, just because you have a psychic vision doesn't mean you're supposed to do anything with it. I'm going to explain that in a second. And the other is that how we interpret the messages that we're getting. And the best example I can give you is about 20-some years ago, a woman had phoned me up, a client, said she'd had a dream that my house is burning down and that I should check everything electrical in my house, because she was very, very sure I was in danger and that my house was going to burn down. And I thanked her very much for taking the time to call me and tell me this, but I said, dreams of fire could be taken symbolically. Fire in particular is purification and new beginnings. And in fact, I was going through a lot of changes at that time. And I said, so I'm really I will check everything, but I really want to think that it's more metaphoric, like it's a symbology of what you're feeling. And in fact, there was no real fire, but that was a very important lesson for her and for me also, to remind me that we get lots of impressions, psychic impressions, that we don't necessarily know the meaning of, what we're supposed to do with them. The media, largely, and a lot of other TV shows and such, books even, tell us that we're supposed to do something great with this, that if I have these visions, it's for a reason, I'm supposed to do this. And in fact, I really believe not necessarily at all. I think that there is such a thing as random psychic premonitions or psychic experiences when we are evolving, as we are growing our intuition, becoming more intuitive. It could be through your clairaudience, clairvoyance, any number of the sensory perceptions. Some people have dreams, daydreams, night dreams, so on. It's not that we're necessarily to do anything with it. It means that we are growing. What it does do is gives us feelings of helplessness, feelings of frustration, feelings of, feeling badly that you can't go out and change the world with what you're doing. Because again, we like to think that there's a reason outside of ourselves that we're having these experiences. And I think the exception may be with your children, your family, immediate family, but again, not to step over the boundaries. Because there's always boundaries, There is that respect for free will and remembering that everybody has access to the universe as we might feel like we're having, but it's up to them to listen too. So there's a really delicate line about what we share with other people. Even my grown adult children and my grandchildren, I'm still very respectful. I can say I have a feeling about something. Can I share that with you? And that's to respect that they are adults and they are in their own lives. And yeah, maybe there's a few things going on in life. They don't want to hear it. They do. They're making the decision anyway, even though it's against my better psychic judgment, but that's their free will. You see, that's their right. So back to this woman who's having these horrible nightmares. It's really important that in these situations that we get grounded and we say to ourselves, okay, I have that vision, I see that, but they are happening everywhere. So you have to get out of that microscope and open it up to, there are those bad things happening everywhere. And I am tuning into that, and I am getting that. There's nothing I can do about that. I have to make peace with that and know that I have to channel my energy in a better way, in a different way, so we're not fixated on negative, fearful stuff. That's what I call it, all that stuff. So we have to be able to grow our intuition in a good way that's really very respectful to other people. When people come to me for a session, they are asking, and I do, that's when I can do what I do, because somebody has asked. But I had a situation today where I met a woman and I knew she was pregnant. I knew it in my bones. And I didn't say a word because I have to be respectful of the human experience, that if she wants to tell me that she's pregnant, she'll tell me that she's pregnant. And it wasn't in a session, it was a casual social event. And then she did finally tell me that, she said, I am pregnant, but you probably knew that. Well, I got a feeling. But I reassured her too. I said, my intuition is everything's just going to be fine. Because she opened the door and we could have that interaction and that dynamic. That's in a respectful way. When we meet people, I don't know, we're traveling, we're sitting down to dinner, or I've heard of stories like you're on an airplane and you start getting all these psychic flashes about somebody next to you or across the room. We do not and ought not to share that because they didn't ask. It's very imposing to start telling people what they should or can do, what's better for, and how you see it, because it's really just a view. So there is that respect. We have to have those boundaries and the respect for free will, because they have their own free will. They didn't ask, so it's none of my business. And that's really, really important to know what's my business. But the other part is how I'm growing myself. It can be very frustrating to know a whole bunch of stuff, and I have the solution. I know which way it should go, and it would be better. But it's not my business because we're in a shared experience. So I have to keep growing myself and remembering to go where it's something more positive, something that's better and improving, and not to fixate. Fixating is like the brain looping. It's kind of like an OCD thing. You've had an experience and you can't let it go. I always say do something physical. That's very often what I do, is I go and channel that energy into something creative. So a hobby is a really good thing. So when you're channeling that energy somewhere else, then you're calling from way deep inside yourself to something outside, and it's physical. So one of the things I even tell people who have OCD, who keep putting the plug in, like they check the plug 10 times and they're going to go keep plugging, I say, okay, you got your right hand, you're putting in the plug, take your left hand, put it on your wrist. so that when you walk away, did I put the plug in? Yes, I put my left hand on my wrist. And so you've got an extra file there to say you don't have to repeat that. Much the same thing happens when you have psychic impressions. Okay, I have to channel this, and I'm having a really difficult time letting go of that vision that I had. What do I do with it? Nothing. I go do something physical, and I actually put my hands together. I do something to remind myself that it's an aid to shifting the energy. And I know, again, I don't invalidate by any stretch that, it's very difficult and can feel very helpless, but it's really important that we mind our business, really, and remember that we can be having these psychic experiences for any number of reasons, the least of which is our own evolution. But we could also be translating metaphors, analogies, symbols, and we don't know the exact details. So we have to be very, very careful when we do give or share some kind of a psychic impression that we have. And by the way, one other thing, when you meet new people, you're triggering your energy different. That's when we can impose a lot of misunderstanding there too. Woman meets a guy, she says, well, I can read his thoughts, I know what he's doing 1,000 miles away, that must be my soulmate. Well, not necessarily. That has a new experience, a new dynamic that has opened the consciousness, opened your psychic, your psychic sensories, and now you're evolving. Because whether or not that relationship works out, you're going to sustain that ability to tune in new ways. But you also have to know when to kind of channel it somewhere else and shut it down, because we don't need to know all that stuff. So I hope that's helpful, because it's a really important topic when you're growing yourself and growing your intuition.
Thank you, Dr. Hunter. Appreciate that discussion. Anybody have any questions? Anyone have any answers? No questions or answers. But anyway, thank you for that. I appreciate that, and always good advice. See you later. Okay, next up on the agenda is Reverend Gregory Kent. And I got his bio here, and I meant to print it and didn't, so I've got my computer up here. So we'll get him coming. But Gregory P. Kent, is clairvoyant, clairaudient medium who uses his abilities to help those in need to find comfort and closure in dealing with the loss of a loved one and to gain insight and understanding of the continuity of life. A native Floridian, Reverend Kent has been in spiritualism since 2000, with previous studies in metaphysics at the College of Metaphysical Studies in Clearwater. Reverend Kent is a member of the Lilydale Assembly, Lilydale, New York, and the Southern Cassadaga Spiritualist Camp Meeting Association here in Cassadaga, Florida. Well, it's not here in Cassadaga, but here in Florida in Cassadaga. Same thing, only different. He became an ordained minister, certified medium, commissioned healer, and spiritualist teacher through the American Spiritualist Association and transferred his credentials in 2013. He is a graduate of the Morris Pratt Institute of Spiritualist Studies, holds an MBA in Business Administration from St. Leo College, a master's in education from the University of Central Florida, and an education specialist degree from National Louis University in Educational Leadership. He is past member of the National Spiritualist Association of Churches and the American Federation of Spiritualist Churches, and is the former pastor of the Chapel of Spiritual Light Church in Orlando, Florida. Reverend Kent is a certified teacher with the state of Florida who specializes in working with students with autism. And Gregory and I met back in 2006 when I was doing a presentation on paranormal research in Bartow, Florida, and that's when we met. And we haven't split up yet. We're good friends, and it's really an honor and a pleasure to have him here. So I'm going to turn him over to him. His topic is spirit communication.
I want to thank Dr. Kelley, Dr. Hunter, for having me here today. That introduction took up my whole time, Doug. You need to cut it down some. I'm really not that important. I'm happy to be part of this webcast. I'm happy to be talking about something near and dear to my heart, spirit communication. Dr. Hunter made a lot of valid points, and I could not agree with her more. Just because we have this knowledge we're getting from spirit, this knowledge we're getting from the higher side, doesn't mean we have the right to do anything with it unless it applies to us personally. Spirit communication is nothing new. It's been around since ancient times. People have always tried to find a way to talk to relatives, to talk to the deceased, the spirit guides, their gods, whatever you want to call it. And the best way they could find was to find a medium, someone who could communicate with spirit in order for them to find the answers they're looking for. People needed a place to turn when the earthly answers were not enough. They sought a higher source of knowledge, and as a result, they turned to spirit communication. My spiritual journey started back in the 1990s when I attended a metaphysical college in Clearwater, Florida. I was looking for something else in life. I had gone through the Catholic Church for many years, nothing against Catholicism, but I knew there was more to life than what I found in that building, more than what they were teaching me in Sunday school or when I went to the Catholic schools my whole life. There was more out there. I needed that knowledge. I needed that thirst of knowledge. So I looked elsewhere. And it brought me to the College of Metaphysical Studies in Clearwater. And I studied. And I studied. And I studied. That's the way to do it. You find all the books you could read. You meet the teachers that have experienced what you're looking for. And you just pick the brains. And you just keep going, and you keep going, and you keep going. I studied, and I practiced. They were not teaching spirit communication at that time. They were teaching us to open up our psychic abilities. So I chose the psychic ability of reading auras. That's what I wanted to do. So I studied that. And as I became better at it, as I could give readings to individuals, then the mediumship, kicked in. I started seeing individuals around those I was giving readings to. That's what I wanted. That's what I actually sought to gain, that mediumship. But it takes time. It's not something that there's a shortcut to. If there is, I had never found it. So what do you do with that information? Wow, like Dr. Hunter was saying. People come to you because they're looking for answers. They want to know, are their relatives okay on the other side? Well, of course they are. Are they happy? Sure they are. Have they found closure? Maybe not. So they sit down. I need for you to read for me. Okay. This is who's coming through. This is what they're saying. Does it always make sense to them? No. Does it always make sense to me? No. But you just rely on spirit, you rely the information is correct, and you share it. But there has to be a filter there. You just can't say whatever comes to your mind. They might interpret it a different way than it was meant to be, and it could have devastating results. So there has to be that ethical part of it where you hate to say you don't share everything, but you have to know how to share the information, and that it comes with time. So what do you do? How do you become a medium? How do you communicate with spirit? If you read the books, they tell you you have to meditate. How many times have you heard that? You get tired of hearing that. I am the worst meditator around. I don't like meditating. I'm not going to sit in the yoga position chanting mantras for an hour, listening to bells, smelling incense, getting into altered states. My mind works differently. I don't have the time. So in order for me to meditate, I have to find that happy in-between medium, happy medium, so to say. Mine was sitting on the front porch of my rocking chair, drinking coffee. It's relaxing. It's the only way I could really turn my brain off. Just that rocking back and forth. And you tell Spirit, you tell the universe, you tell your God, what do you want? What are you looking for? What are the answers you seek? And then comes that's the easy part. Then comes the hard part. You sit and wait. You sit and wait. The answers are there. The answers are always there. That's my belief. But you have to listen. You have to know that Spirit is communicating with you the best way they know how, based on the best way you know how to listen. It all comes together. Sometimes it's not a person standing in front of you giving you the answer. Sometimes you're reading an article and there's your answer. Sometimes you see a billboard, there's your answer. Sometimes you coincidentally meet someone, they bring up the subject you're talking about, there's your answer. It comes in many forms. We can't just pigeonhole and say we want Spirit to show up and talk to us. If so, they'll come and talk to you all night long, you'll get no sleep. Just the way it is. You have to set these parameters. So what do you do with this information? Well, you sit on it. You think about it. You find a way to bring it into your present. How does this make sense to me? How am I going to be better based on this information? And then you go from there. Not everyone can handle the information they get from Spirit. They're not ready. They're not ready. You have to be in a place, a happy place. Mentally, spiritually, you have to be in this happy place where the information can be, you can receive the information and can use it in a better way to improve your life, not a better way to improve someone else's life. It's all about you. How can you improve your life, make your life better? If you choose to become a medium, then people are going to come to you and want you to help them change their lives. Not your job. It's not your job. That's their job. You can just relay the information to them. Let them take that information and build the life they need to build. Ash, there's so much. Does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask? I could babble all night on the subject, but I want to give you the option if there's something you want to ask. I'd count 100 people in that room. Is that true?
Yes, that is true.
I can see it.
And so there are no questions from the live audience, so I'm going to give you a second to just wrap it up, and then we're going to kick you out, okay?
No, that's fine. That's fine. It's all about energy. Whenever I lecture about spirit communication, I lecture about energy. You have to raise your energy in order to reach their energy. People on the other side, they're at a higher vibration than we are. Are there lower vibrations? Absolutely. Don't want to mess with them. There's nothing they can tell me that I need to know. Don't mess with them. I want to raise my vibration to a higher vibration. So that's energy. Everything we do is energy. Once you find that connection, once you find the way to sit and listen, write it down. Write it down. That's the biggest mistake I always make is I forget to write it down. I'll always remember in the morning. I'll always remember when I get up out of this rocking chair. I always forget. I always forget. Write it down. When you're on your path and you're looking for a teacher, spend some time with that individual. If it doesn't feel right, don't stay. It's got to feel right. As soon as it stops feeling right, don't stay any longer. Look for a new teacher. Look for someone as a role model. Someone who's been there, who's done that, who's done spirit communication. They have to be able to get you at a place where you can feel it, where you can sense it, where you can be it. You know, it just doesn't happen overnight. And it is, like I said, it's your life will change once you get this connection. It's a wonderful feeling. It is also a burden, I believe Dr. Hunter said. Having this knowledge doesn't make you a better person, doesn't make you in control of anything. Having the knowledge doesn't do anything for you unless the knowledge is for yourself and you're going to use it for yourself. So I hope that was helpful. And I certainly look forward to coming back in the future doing additional webcast. Dr. Kelley.
Reverend Gregory, thank you very much. As always, we appreciate your knowledge on that. And we have a lot of history together. There's some fascinating stuff we've investigated, and he's the one that turned me on to table tipping, and maybe someday we'll get him to talk about that fascinating thing. Gregory, thanks, my friend. I appreciate you being here with us tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, we're on the home stretch here. Just a couple of things we want to do as far as announcements go. Next week's topics I'll post online. Get those rounded up and I'll post those. Those who donated, appreciate that, and like to encourage those in the live broadcast. There's a way to donate, keeps the flame burning, keeps things going. We appreciate them very much. The last thing for us to do tonight is to do our soul light meditation. Now, for those who are new to this, it's just a 4 or 5 minute little time to relax. That's about it. And so it's a time for you to not be bothered by anyone or anything. Nobody want anything. So to do this, just get yourself comfortable in a seat. If you're at home or wherever you're at, just shift, get comfortable. If you got your eyes open at this point, pick a point straight across from you, focus on it, and take a deep breath in through your nose. Hold on to it to the mental count of 3, and release it slowly through your mouth, and just relax. This is just part of the human psyche, the human condition, relaxing, breathing. Continue to focus on that point while you take another deep breath in through your nose. Hold on to it for a moment. Allow your eyes to close gently and just relax. It feels so good to just relax for a moment. And these types of meditations are kind of like micro meditations. You can do this anywhere at any time. And this meditation, which is really a guided meditation with imagery, is based on the soul light, which is our term for your higher self. And if in your mind's eye, in your imagination, I want you to visualize that ball of glowing light right above your head. That represents your inner self, your higher self, who you are, the essence of you. And it is there, and it's glowing, and it's powerful, and it's got all these little fingers of electricity connecting to everything that there is, because we're all connected in many ways. And this powerhouse, this ball of light, is you, and you are a powerful person. Take another deep breath in through your nose and hold on to it, let it gently out, and relax even more. I want you to visualize this light, this ball of light coming right down inside your body. This is where you harness your power, coming right down on inside you into the middle of your body, and just see it beginning to fill you up with energy, nurturing, comforting energy. It's you. It's your power. And it's filling you up. It's affecting every cell of your body, relaxing you, healing you. If you have a particular area that needs some attention, maybe you have a pain or an ache or something like that, focus that energy on that area of your body. Visualize that the tentacles of that energy just revitalizing your every cell, your very being. Continue to focus on your breathing, the rhythm of your breathing. It's all right. You're doing fine. Nobody wants anything. This is your moment. And as you allow that healing energy to do its thing, to infiltrate every part of your being, take some of that energy and send it off. Devote it to somebody who has a need. Maybe you know somebody who's having a hard time. Send them a little bit of energy. Send them your good wishes. That's part of your deliberate intent, and it does help. Many people call this saying a prayer for someone. Well, you can do this yourself by just sending them your good wishes. Wishes to get better. Wishes for their situation to heal. Keep them in mind. Maybe they've lost someone close to them and they need an encouraging word. Send them a little energy, a little light. And don't forget yourself too. And allow that energy that is you to lift you up. Help you to walk just a little taller, a little more spring in your step, a little more positivity in your life, while you keep in mind helping others as well. In a second, I'm just going to count from 1 to 3, and as I do, I want you to come back to full awareness. 1, feeling so much better, even though it's just been a short time. Number 2, eyes beginning to open, feeling like you've been refreshed by a cool mountain stream. And 3, eyes wide open. You are powerful. See that light now retaking its place right above your head. It's always there for you. You can do anything you want. You really can. We all can. You are enough. All right. I appreciate everyone's attention tonight. Appreciate you coming. Appreciate those who are tuning in to the live broadcast. Of course, the archive will be available probably in the morning once we get it uploaded to YouTube and all. We appreciate it. Tell people, tell others about this. If you like what you've heard, spread the word, and maybe they'll join us next week too. So until next week, I encourage you to listen, think, learn, grow, and live. Really, really live.